Welcome to Gruber Power Hour. Happy Friday. I'm Erica.
And I'm Pete Gruber. We're going to
Welcome
have fun
back.
today. Yeah, we our other three co-hosts.
Yeah.
Let me see. One's out sick.
Yep.
One's in training, and one is in the sales group. There's a contest going on right now, and it's important to
We're not going
make
to
those
take her
numbers.
from money.
No, yeah.
Never.
So you're going to have to put up with me and Erica just simply rambling and talking about cool stuff, I guess.
Absolutely. Today's topic is about growing a company. That's why it was so essential Pete come back today because, well, he's grown quite a few companies. So I really want his insight, and I would say you want mine as far as an employee and candidates and so on and so forth. So
yeah, the other side of the equation, and you've had your fair share of management experience as well. So I think it'll be a good informative podcast. For those of you that are visiting or chiming in, feel free to make some comments up there on the screen. We can see what you're asking. We'll respond to it. And
and like the videos, even though you're watching them, it helps us get a little bit further ahead.
Yeah, those algorithms are important to satisfy.
We got to manipulate them.
Sure. So just before the podcast, maybe we can continue with that. We were talking about school.
Oh, yeah.
And how both of us actually were semi-successful in school.
Yeah.
I shared with Erica that I actually got thrown out of high school for 6 months. And I didn't like authority figures, I guess. I was incorrigible. Yeah. I was, me and another friend of mine, we just couldn't conform. So
no, and that's a lot of what today's world is about. We also discussed the fact that, like when I was in school, I just decided at 16 that I just needed GED because all they were doing back then is very similar to what they're pushing today. They're just trying to get you to take tests so they can get, whatever they get out of that. It's not really helping the student. They're not retaining the information. And you even said something crucial, collaboration. There's no collaboration really in school anymore.
Yeah, it's all about individual contribution, and it's not about team building, which are useful skills later on in life,
It's ridiculous. It's like, here, put your head down, take this test so we can get funding. That's how it feels sometimes.
I'll tell you an interesting story. My high school history teacher, Mr. Paisano, long deceased now, so I can talk about it. Yeah. He and I just didn't see eye to eye. It was important to him that students remember dates in history. Not the reason for these events, but all of the trivia, the dates. And I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to use this later on in life? Why do I know? Why do I need to know the precise year that the French Revolution started? Right.
Right.
I'm more interested in why did it start? Right.
Why? What happened?
Yeah. But to pass successful tests, it was all about memorization.
Yeah.
And I remember the nerdy kids that were the best, that had the best grades, were the ones that studied and memorized dates. I remember them, talking about it and practicing the dates and all of that. And I'm thinking, how worthless is this?
Have you seen any of them since high school, or know of any of them? And are they successful with their dates?
They actually meet the group in my high school about once a month or so.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And I went to the 50th year reunion about
you just don't
4
seem
years
that
ago.
old, Pete. Come on. He's lying.
My first takeaway was, when you live inside your own shell and body, you don't consider yourself old because you feel the same way you did when you were 18.
I don't think we ever really grow up.
Yeah. So I went in this room with all of my high school friends, and I thought, it's a bunch of old men.
I'm the youngest one here.
That was a wake-up call. But no, bless their heart, they get together, they have camaraderie and all of that. And
that's cool.
A lot of them peaked in high school too,
Really?
which is fine.
Yeah,
I'm not judging that in any way. It's a large part of their life. But so anyway, getting back to Mr. Paisano, all right?
Please.
I was unsuccessful in his class. And what I mean by unsuccessful, getting D's, barely passing grades so that, I wouldn't have to repeat. Back then, by the way, if you failed a class, you had to retake it.
Yeah,
And
they don't do that anymore.
well, they kept you back.
Yeah, they
I
don't
remember
do
in
that
grammar.
anymore.
Oh, I know. And the biggest bully that I had in grammar school was held back twice,
Oh,
and that's why he
no.
was a bully because.
You're like, this is why I keep failing.
So anyway, Mr. Paisano, okay, I'm unsuccessful. Well, he goes on a medical leave or something for a couple of months, and they brought in a student teacher. Now, this is somebody that is in college. That is practicing to be a teacher.
Much closer to your age.
Closer to my age, and he was full of vim and vigor, and he wasn't focused on dates.
There's energy, excitement about learning.
Yeah, he used to tell us things like Catherine the Great, who eventually went to Russia. They were all inbred, and they had physical deformities as a result of that.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I would have loved to learn that.
Yeah. And suddenly, history became interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I started to get straight A's with the student teacher.
Oh, imagine that.
So now, a couple months later, Mr. Paisano comes back, and he gives this poor student teacher hell. Gruber doesn't get grades like this. He thought there was favoritism. He thought there was something wrong with it.
Oh, no.
And I remember,
what an a-hole.
I remember how dejected the student teacher felt. And actually, before he left, he shared with me, he says, look, I'm sorry, but, you're doing a great job. And unfortunately, Mr. Paisano doesn't see it that way.
Oh,
and
wow.
he kind of, so that kind of reset my
That
perspective.
diminishes a student's desire to learn. And, tying it into business, the training processes that you get from the companies can really diminish your desire and your like wanting to learn the business.
Yeah.
It's like if this person isn't even enthusiastic about it, how the heck am I supposed to be?
And, if you become part of the herd and you become part of the rule followers, it's not a very enriched life. Things like critical thinking are vital, especially in this day and age when there's so much crap and misinformation out there.
Yeah.
You've got to question things. You've got to be able to see beyond the normal glitter, and the shiny things that are distracting people.
You have to be willing to come up with something original. Be creative.
Yeah.
That's just not valued as much as it should be.
All right, here we go. YouTube, DRE says, amen. You're right,
Dre,
Pete.
I hope the kids are feeling better.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. I don't know, maybe I'll join you guys again.
Hopefully.
We were planning on,
It's your show.
Yeah.
I just live here.
So anyway, how do we tie this into Gruber Power Services, which is always the goal with these podcasts? Well, growing a company. How did Gruber Power Services grow? How do we treat employees? What do we look for in employees? Recognizing that if we pick the wrong ones, they're not going to be successful and our company's not going to be successful. So that's what I came here prepared to talk about, is some of the successes and failures and some of the things we look for.
Yeah. And I really, can you, what's like an important quality that you look for in a candidate when you were recruiting?
Well, fast forward a bit or back forward to 40 years ago. I was a novice. All right.
Okay.
And, back then I made all the classic mistakes. The first thing that I learned to do was look at that resume. Not so much for content, because people can fabricate content.
Fluff it,
Yeah. Or oftentimes they'll tailor it to the position. If you have an accounting position, all the accounting skills are there. If it's engineering, it's technical,
Yeah.
So I'm far more interested, initially at least, during screening, how long did they stay at each job?
Okay.
Good clue for you guys that are job hopping. It doesn't bode well for you, and a skilled recruiter is going to look for that. And,
that's very true.
I've even gone as far as graphing some of the resumes that I got early on, where I began to see the pattern emerge. And typically people will follow the same pattern, 2 years at every place. Maybe it's 2 years and 2 months or 18 months or something, but it's generally predictable because they reach some level of dissatisfaction at some point, or their skills are finally recognized to be non-existent or weak in the areas that they claim they had.
6 months, 8 months.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I'm done with you.
The reason that's so important is if it's a 2-year, 18-month, 1-year stint at each company, you're next. I guarantee you. There's nothing different about your company than those other fine companies like American Express or, the Fortune 1000s. The next thing I listen for is, why did you leave the job that you were
the
in?
The infamous question.
Yeah. And it's very important because when you hear things like, SpaceX sucks, the culture there is lousy, they're Motorola, Fortune 500s, any of them, Chase Bank or whatever.
Yeah.
Folks, it's not the company that's flawed.
Not really.
It's the individual. If the company was flawed, they would have never grown to Fortune 1000 status.
Seriously.
Yeah. So that's the next thing you listen for is what is their reason for leaving? And there are valid reasons.
You didn't vet the company. You didn't vet the culture. You didn't vet the company as a candidate. That's what happened. I found a lot of people would come in to a position when I was in management, having logistic skills or been a broker or something like that in the past or done shipping in the past, but then I'll start asking very key questions in the interview. And if you can't answer it, then to me, your resume is just full of it.
Sure. Next thing you listen for is they were mean to me.
Oh,
My boss didn't like me. All of this personal stuff that gets brought into the conversation. Again, the clue there is we're going to be next in line. We're going to be that same, and they get to play the victim.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the company's fault.
Yeah.
Never accountable for your own. See, I want to hear, I did this wrong, and I learned this from it, and I took this action to correct it.
Yeah, exactly. And now you've got a chance at having a solid employee. So those are some of the things that we that I look for, that our recruiters here look for those of you that are looking for a job. Those are important elements.
So growing a company, I mean, when Gruber started, you were in your home and you grew it from one employee to now,
Couple hundred
employees?
With subcontractors, it's probably more like 300.
Right. So 35 years? 40 years.
1984.
Yep, 40 years. You took it from that to this. What would you attribute your success to? What was it that you did differently that a lot of businesses couldn't stay in business?
Well, that's fairly simple. And one word, perseverance. Most people give up early. As soon as the problems start, as soon as the trauma starts, most people aren't equipped to ride through that phase. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, if you're trying to be a full human being with family and children, and you can't start a business, in my estimation, because it is
too demanding.
Yeah, it is a demanding mistress.
It really is.
That you cannot find additional time for. I put my life on hold for 10 years, literally. Just got done with a divorce. Tried to be the best dad that I could be, even though they weren't living with me.
Right.
But other than that, it was intense focus. It was the Elon Musk hours. He talks about 100-hour weeks.
Yeah, that's a lot.
He's not exaggerating, folks.
No.
This is real. And you have to have the stamina. You have to be able to get up every day and find life to be exciting and work to be exciting and have that passion. And it's very difficult to muster.
I can hear the passion still 40 years later in your voice.
Well, now it's, when you're going to retire? You're 73.
Everyone keeps asking you that, don't they?
Yeah. Don't you want to play golf? Oh, and I get these emails every day. Do you have an exit strategy? We'd like to buy your company. And, and then...
You guys are putting the nail in my coffin before I even get close to it.
My personal opinion, again, and I may not be like everybody, so don't take my word as gospel and follow my lead necessarily. But I firmly believe that when you stop waking up every day and having a strong, powerful sense of mission and having purpose in life, that's when you begin to die.
Agree.
And if, playing golf.
I watch it with family and friends who retire.
Yeah. It's fairly rapid sometimes.
They become
within
so
a
depressed
few years.
and bored.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they don't read. They just don't do anything.
And the mental machinery atrophies. It's like any muscle in your body.
Got to work it out.
You stop exposing yourself to enormous amounts of problems to solve every day, and your brain will atrophy.
Yeah.
It'll be difficult for you to communicate, to put thoughts together. Your memory starts to suffer. So that's one of the reasons I recommend staying as active as you can possibly be and find your purpose, find your mission. It doesn't really have to be within the business that you're in, although that's what I chose. It could be volunteer work.
Right. Yeah.
It could be innovating and inventing something, or a strong, powerful hobby that you completely get attached
walking.
Yeah. Philanthropy, So anyway, we've got a bunch of people.
I love these questions coming in. Okay. John Dotson asks, in a world full of social media, including your podcast, for example, how do businesses balance profit maximization with social responsibility to sustain substantial growth? Dang, John, love the question.
John, did you use AI for that question?
John used AI.
I think he did. All right, so let's unpack this. How do businesses balance profit maximization with social responsibility to sustain substantial growth? Well, I'm not sure that the combination of those result in growth. Profit maximization obviously would. And let's go there for a moment.
Yeah, social responsibility.
Yeah. How do businesses grow? Well, first of all, you have to pick people that are interested in growing the business.
Yeah, they're meeting you in the middle with that why.
Yeah. People that are there to collect a paycheck are never going to grow your business. They have no incentive to do so.
No, that looks like a cube farm.
Yeah. In fact, the more things that they expose themselves to in terms of bringing in business, the more work they have to do. And if the goal is to just collect a paycheck and they're satisfied with that, you're not going to get much traction there.
No. And then with social responsibilities, sustain substantial growth. That's
social
hard.
Responsibility. All right. So we talked about becoming a philanthropist, volunteering for causes, taking that on as a hobby. You can do that in business as well in a different way. Developing your employees, showing them that, training them and showing them that there's more to them than they're aware of. And that's one of the gifts I think that any great manager has, is recognizing the potential in people and then helping them discover it.
Yeah.
And of course, they'll take credit for it eventually, say, look what I just did. Well, that's fine. If you have a large enough ego as a manager and you need to feel like you're part of that, forget it.
I did that.
Yeah.
I bought you that present on Christmas.
Right. You just quietly sit back and say, down deep, I know I was part of that, and I'm really proud of them and their progress.
Be proud. Just be proud of the progress. Absolutely. Right. That's a great idea.
That's your validation, in other words.
And how do you, what are the most critical factors that contribute to an employee's success here at Gruber?
Passion. When we go back to the resume.
I greatly agree with that, yeah.
There are certain things that you can train and teach. Certainly the technical content and, the engineering parts of the job, or the mechanics of the job, or the processes and all of that. Yeah. But what I look for, far more important, is passion, commitment. A lot of people are starting to talk about that. These advanced degrees, the 4-year degrees, 6-year, the master's degrees, and the PhDs.
They don't find the value as much in it, or they get nervous. People hiring, they're like, "Oh, I got to pay this guy more."
Yeah, passion takes you much further than deep levels of education. Now, I agree. Now, having said that, though, you're going to need to learn key components of your job.
Yeah.
Now, if that's software, you're going to have some programming skills.
Yeah.
If it's engineering, you're going to have some either electronics or mechanical engineering skills, right? That sets the foundation. But beyond that, the real reason for success then is going to be passion and commitment.
Absolutely.
And you got to bring that every day. Every day when you wake up, you've got to decide that that's what you're going to do.
Dre said, "Hello, Walmart people." That's what those candidates are. Walmart people, he thinks. 10 years on, I wish I was there today to talk about that, Pete. Come back next week now. You the man.
10 years. All right, Andre. We'll see you next week.
So I personally think like specific qualities and characteristics in not only the business owners that I've met. I've seen some business owners like yourself and the way that it grew. I mean, when I left and came back, Gruber grew 2 companies. It grew huge in just couple years. So when I look at not just Gruber, but other companies that have flourished along the way and what their success stories were, and a lot of the same success stories is exactly what you're talking about. It's enthusiasm, it's passion, it's desire, it's motivating themselves, being able to be a self-starter, being able to have discipline to just
good word, discipline.
Bootstrap it.
Yeah.
Like just put the bootstraps up, man. You got to get out this door. You have to drive. I know as a salesperson, when I'm an interview and now as, doing training and hiring over there in it's like some of the interviewers coming through have no drive and no passion, none of it. How are you expecting to make it in sales? It makes no sense. You've got to show up for a job that you want, not as a job. That's the problem. I need a job, so like, you want to hire me, bro? It's not like that. I want you to show up with class, with poise. Show me that you're responsible. Show me you've got your life together. And your personal life is not going to be, and your financial life is not going to be my responsibility as an owner. And when we talk about social stuff, it's like, when you walk through the door, it's no longer like, it's not TikTok, it's not Facebook. This is a professional environment. And if you can't separate the two, then you're not ready. You haven't developed enough.
Well, I think you nailed it too. The most successful people aren't people that don't have drama in their lives.
Everybody has
they may
drama.
Have more drama than you do.
Totally.
But the critical difference is they're able to park the baggage at the door when they come in and shift gears.
Right.
The ones that can't shift gears end up either leaving, become unsuccessful, or get canned.
Yep.
Because they can't
I'll
deliver.
say early on in my career in sales, I got canned a lot. And I got canned a lot because of the simple fact that I had great ideas, but I had no execution.
Focus.
I had all of this mess going on, and everyone's like, wow, Erica's going to be great. And then I just stunted myself. I stopped myself from growing, and I believed firmly it was ego. I thought I was selling a burning bag of poo to a blind man. I could do this. Prosciutto to a rabbi, I heard quite a few people say I could do. But no, really, I was just falsely confident in something. And once I became student-minded, once I was willing to learn, grow, and discipline myself, that was when I was able to truly hone my career and where it was going.
There's a term that comes to mind, laser focus.
Yeah.
And that requires an enormous amount of discipline because day after day after day, you have to maintain that laser focus. It's one analogy is a prize fight. All right. Two guys are slugging it out in the ring. Right. The guy that continues to get up and swing will eventually prevail.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
You get knocked down a number of times, but you've got to be able to get back up. And that requires enormous commitment, self-discipline, and a laser focus. Yeah.
Tyson is one of my favorite stories when I really read about him, or even Muhammad Ali. I mean, when I look at those fighters and see what they had to put into it and how much focus and dedication and motivation to really make themselves who they wanted to be.
And let's talk about confidence now. They expect to win.
Yeah.
Any doubts that you have about your ability to succeed will manifest and will affect your ability to succeed.
It's like telling someone you're ugly over and over and over, and eventually they're going to see it.
Babe Ruth was a prime example of that. He was able to actually point at the wings and hit a homer. He actually called homers at times.
8-ball corner pocket.
Exactly, yes. And if you can move yourself into that mode where you 100% believe that outcome, magic happens. Your body begins to respond to that.
That's very true, and it's been proven time and time again with even just something as simple as religion. You know, when you look at, it's a controversial topic, sorry, but...
Are we going to talk about religion?
I mean, we can, but we've only got 5 minutes. So when it comes down to it, people believe in something so greatly that it changes their life, and it can be in a positive way, some negative, but most positive. That hyper focus and that ability to believe in yourself and believe in what you want to come true, then it will happen.
Another term, faith.
Yeah, you have to have faith in yourself. You have to. If you have no confidence, it shows. And no one's going to trust you, especially in business. Nobody's going to hire you if you come in and go, I think I can do it.
So we hire people. And part of the job is in our sales, in our call centers, is prospecting.
Yep.
Getting through,
that's a big part of our jobs.
Getting through the gatekeeper. And what I mean by gatekeeper is that receptionist that gets dozens of sales calls every day and has become extraordinarily efficient and accurate in getting rid of them. Who
actually thinks their job is to stop you from talking to people.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure.
So now you have to bring a resilience. You have to bring an enthusiasm. You have to bring, rather than just simply read a script, which a lot of the salespeople do, by the way. I know.
I'm trying so hard to keep anyone away from a script. It could be so damning.
You have to be able to shift and maneuver with the punches, getting back to the prize fighters. Not every punch is going to come from the same direction. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be able to, step out of the way and change rapidly in order to accommodate that process.
Absolutely.
The most successful processors are the ones that can actually cut through that gatekeeping function. And we've had some superb salespeople in the past. We have. Yeah.
You know who I found and listened to a lot is John down there in GPS. I always say his last name wrong.
John Swearington. Yeah.
I always say his last name wrong. I say his last name, swear to it. And he's like, just stop. So I listened to him on the phone, and he does not stop. He doesn't stop until he gets some answers, and he perseveres, and he just keeps going until the gatekeeper's like, oh my God, whatever, and then transfers him. That's sales.
YouTube, Highlander's with us. Hello, Highlander. How you doing? He says, for me, fixing the machines and troubleshooting the problem is half the fun of the job. I just like the challenge of it. I know exactly how you feel,
That's
Highlander.
Awesome.
And there's such enormous validation when you finally find a problem, in a technical problem.
Absolutely. And John Dotson, you totally hit the nail on the head here. The big difference is between understanding the difference between a job versus a career. A career is a lifestyle.
And continuous improvement. That's the other part of that. And it's so rewarding because you begin to expand. Things like, everybody has a comfort zone, and it's fairly well defined.
Yeah.
Right? When you start to push outside that comfort zone, it's very uncomfortable. That's why they call it a comfort zone.
It's extremely uncomfortable, but it's magical.
But every time you do, what happens?
Great things.
The boundaries expand.
Yes.
Your comfort zone grows, and you're able to do so much more.
My favorite thing growing up, my favorite saying growing up was, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. I don't think capping your own self-worth and capabilities just based on, like what you were even saying earlier, societal differences. It's like, forget you guys. I want to be the 1%. I want to be the 1% that says, yes, I can. Yes, I did. And hold my beer. Watch this.
There are no limits. And what people that are operating within narrow comfort zones typically will say, well, they're lucky.
Right?
Bullshit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
There's no such thing as luck. Maybe at the casino, but not in life. You make your own luck. And you do that by pushing outside your comfort zones and by being aggressive, assertive, and continuously improving yourself.
You're going to fail. Do it. Please. Dear God, learn.
Failure's so much part of success. Yeah. In sales, we say every no gets you closer to a yes.
It's so true. I get 100 rejections before I get a yes. I'll say that. There's no limit to that. And the worst thing I think I see people do is this new norm of, it's just so hard. And I'm like, everything I have in life that was worth having was really hard to get and really hard to keep.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing I've ever had that's free or easy. And if it was, and it was cheap, and it didn't last long, and it didn't keep my attention very long either.
Yeah. Now, having said everything that I've said, I want to go on record and say there's nothing wrong with an average life.
No.
People, they may raise a family, they have kids, they have the house, they might get a boat, 1 or 2 cars or something. Right. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're one of those people that is constantly striving and pushing for more, you've got to let go of those comfort zones.
For sure.
And not that. Let's talk about rich people for just a moment.
Ooh, I don't know any. I'm just kidding.
Rich people are some of the unhappiest people on the planet.
They have so many more problems.
Exactly. People often say, well, Pete, now that you've reached a certain level in life, why don't you get a bigger house? I've got a 2,400 square foot house.
It's more to clean.
Totally, yes. And I don't want to live in a place that, I've got too many rooms that we can't even maintain and clean.
Hello,
Yeah.
from
And then you have all of the maintenance issues. You become a general contractor, pool maintenance, landscaping, house cleaning, the maintenance on the home, the maintenance on the vehicles if you have a large collection of cars and all of that. And suddenly you're preoccupied with all of this general, maintenance stuff. Yeah, you become a general contractor, basically.
Yeah.
Instead of leading a life that is rich, spending time with family, learning new things.
I'd rather go on a vacation than buy a car.
Yeah. All right. So let's go the other direction now. Some people like golf. I don't like golf. I find it pointless, right? I'm more of a action sport type guy. I used to be played soccer, for example.
Ooh, I love soccer.
Yeah. But all right. So whatever the sport is, you retire and then you take up a sport. How boring is golf? You ride around a golf cart. You wear cool clothes maybe that you think are cool, right?
It's boring.
You hit the ball and travel. All right, going different places. That gets boring too. I mean, we go to Europe probably every 3 years or so, and I'm burned out after 3 weeks. I want to get home. I got stuff to do. Yeah.
So you have like a big itinerary and you're going everywhere.
How many churches can you see? How many lakes? How many boats can you? All of that.
I want to go to the waters. Yeah. Only the waters. I don't care about the museums.
Look at all of the people chiming in.
This is awesome. Cass says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, ain't that about the truth?
Thank
and
you,
then
Cass.
John says you must understand failure. There is no dishonor in failing, only in failing to try.
Well
That's
said.
right. Dre says be yourself. I learned that. That's true. You got to be authentic in some way.
I think we've had a hell of a podcast. And I think what we ought to do next week is bring the other 3 people in.
Yes.
And we'll have another great podcast. And what I'd love to see with the group that you normally have is I want to see some disagreement. Not everybody thinks the same.
We're going to banter.
I'd like to hear your opinions, your thoughts on topics.
I agree with this.
And challenge us. We said a whole bunch of stuff. Give us your perspective on it.
Yeah. Let's have some interaction. Give me some topic ideas and some conversation ideas. I mean, I'm open. This isn't just about power. I mean, it's not the only thing we do here at Gruber Power Hour, although we will always go back to basics at some point. I'm Erica.
I'm Pete Gruber.